For my riding, I don't think I'd pick this. Hi. Hi. Welcome back to Kairu Rider and my first ride on a BMW. One thing I have to say about BMW themselves is when I've gone to Honda test rides in the past, they give me a specific course. Turn here, here, and here. BMW said, take 1 or 2 hours, we'll see you later, please don't crash. As far as company test ride policies are concerned, BMW gets the win. And as far as the quick shifter's concerned, pretty good. But there's no script, I'm not looking to test anything specific. This is an R1250 GS. I don't know what extras there are. I think cruise is an extra, but I don't know if I'll try that. They did tell me that this cruise is not limited. Like if you've seen about my Yamaha, my cruise control is limited to 100 kilometers an hour. This is limited to 200 because of course it's German. A big reason I'm happy about this review comes in 2 parts. First, if you know about my work, I've been doing custom bikes for most of a year. One of the major things I work on is R9Ts, but I've never actually ridden a BMW until right now. So, you hear so much about the boxer engine being the bee's knees and the cat's pajamas. I have no idea. And I know I don't want to take the toll road. But that all being said, it's also an adventure bike and a touring bike. And touring and adventure is kind of my thing. So having spent so much time on touring bikes and owning a Tracer 900 GT, is this really as good as it gets? Is this really the top of the class? And I must say, 2 things it's got going for it is, compared to at least my bike and all the bikes I've owned, this is a pretty impressive seat. This is a seat that I do not need to buy a new seat. My Tracer's survivable, but that's it. It's survivable. Now, as far as the torque goes, I haven't changed it out of 5th gear yet. I've gone pretty low and pretty high. It's a pretty smooth powertrain. It doesn't really vibrate. It doesn't have any negative feedback. It's just nice. But I will say the cockpit and the fairing is so far out. This is a big bike. And let's just, for fun, cruise control's on. Pretty smooth. It's not nearly as hard as I thought it would be. But I must say, this is some comfort that I could get used to. And the shaft drive, it's instant feedback, it's instant torque. Though I will say, coming from my Tracer 900, this doesn't feel quite as seat of your pants powerful. I know I'm not pushing it in this traffic, I'm not losing my mind quite yet, but as far as power's concerned, I gotta give credit to the Tracer. The big question is, can the big bike filter? With the engine keeping the center of gravity so low, and remembering that the engine is the width of the handlebars, yeah, it's pretty okay in traffic like this. Again, comparing it to my Tracer, when you go hard on the throttle like that, you do feel the adventure suspension kind of dip a bit. And let's just for fun test the brakes real quick. The brakes are much more impressive on this than what I'm used to. These are some nice brakes. Let's see if it does U-turns. Really good, yeah. It does amazing U-turns, good lord. That has more steering lock than I'm comfortable to test. But that's an adventure bike. I remember the Africa Twin. This, for what I can feasibly use, this is not far off the Africa Twin. Another filtering test. It's an extremely confidence-inspiring bike. I've been on the bike, 5 minutes, but I gotta say, yeah, I understand why it's a bestseller over and over and over in Europe. I mean, I can think of 2 reasons I wouldn't get it, but we'll get into that maybe later. The engine definitely gets up and pulls. It growls at you. I like the exhaust. It's a stock exhaust that sounds great. The instant torque at any time, that's definitely an improvement. I'm sure that's partly the boxer design, partly being a twin versus my triple, but there's torque. And as always, I asked BMW if it's okay if I do this for YouTube. They said absolutely fine. Though, why would you say no to free advertising? Then again, that might be confidence that they're just sure it'll be a net positive review. Let's check out some side streets. All right, now let's see, how does she fare? How does it fare on the tight roads of Tokyo? Hopefully the sound isn't too bad right now. It's not cumbersome. I say weight matters when it's weight up high. Like, I reckon the Tenere 700 is a much lighter bike, but it carries all its weight so hard. I fear that this might feel lighter in the dipping in and out. It might feel lighter than the Tenere, but I will say it's enough weight that you can definitely lose control of it pretty quick there. I ever so slightly am noticing that there's a 19-inch wheel. It's not bad, it's not ruining the bike. I don't know if this is a track bike, is all I'm saying. Let's see low speed quick shifter. It works. Now, one spot where I'm going to be critical of the bike is the quick shifter. I am comparing to a 660 Street Triple and a Tracer 900 GT. Their quick shifters are much smoother. It's just in the next gear, in the next gear. I never notice a loss of power. On this, I absolutely notice the loss of power. And a question I sometimes get in the comments is, how do I memorize the routes I go? I have no idea where I am. I know I'm in Tokyo. But as far as the quick shifter is concerned, it works at low speeds, it's fine. Quick shift up. Quick shift down is smoother than what I experienced on my Street Triple, but the quick shifting up is not as good. You feel the power lag when you quick shift this up. Now let's see if the mirrors are good for a merge. They are. The windshield seems to be pretty good. I can't figure out how to raise it up. Maybe I'm just too weak, but I'm not willing to risk breaking it, so it lives there. Maybe it's this dial, but I'm just not interested enough to play with it. One thing that has to be said is the weight is definitely in front of me. When I'm on my Tracer or my wife's SV, the weight feels pretty balanced. I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's this model, this doesn't feel balanced. It feels like there's at least 60% of the weight in front of me. I say I don't know if this means anything, but maybe it's because it's spec'd for a heavier rider, but being Japan, there are not many heavier riders than what I've brought. I am somewhat of a pinnacle thickness by Japan standards. If you live in a big country like Germany or the US where you're getting some big miles at high speeds, I would 100% understand why someone would pick this as the best bike there is to pick. But for me personally, it's not that I have anything bad to say about this bike specifically, nothing bad about the test ride. But for my riding, I don't think I'd pick this. And the reason is, I like sport bikes and I like touring, in that order. So my Tracer is a touring bike, but it's much closer to a sport bike. This is a touring bike that is a touring bike, could be ridden sporty. It's not full-on Goldwing, but it's much more the touring half compared to the Tracer. That's not a good thing about the Tracer or a bad thing about this, it's a preference thing about me. But to all the GS owners out there, I get it. I absolutely get it. This is lovely. If I was doing strictly two-up touring with my wife, this would probably be better than my Tracer. If I had to compare it to anything, I would say it's my V-Strom with a bit more thickness and power and features. I even think I know where I am now. There's the BMW. I know exactly where I am now. I put a bit more time on the bike, and a few things. First off, the exhaust. It howls like, I don't know, a diesel pickup truck or something. And it's just, it's so good. Like, I don't know if you're hearing that, but I am hearing that. Oh, yeah. And I must say, as far as the build quality goes, It's a typical European bike, from what I can tell. I can't tell where they saved money in a good way. It doesn't feel like there was much of a budget. That being said, the price tag would agree with that opinion.
So I've had some time to think, and when I was parked outside of 7-Eleven, it was nice seeing the looks of Japanese people thinking, he owns a Beamer? And as far as the company's concerned, the customer service was top-notch and very German. Direct yes or no. None of that, well, you see, maybe, and none of that stick to your own kind that I've been literally told from other dealers in Japan, who were ironically Japanese men selling European bikes. As for this bike, the GS TFT is beautiful, but you have to scroll through the menu to find what you want. On my Tracer, be it a bit cluttered, it has everything you need all the time right there. Maybe that's just me being used to it. 1.5 hours on the GS is surely not enough time to get well used to it. As far as lasting impressions, one word that does come to mind is tractor. Don't get me wrong, I like the bike, I just don't necessarily love it. I never really noticed the shift cam that they're so proud of, but maybe it's the type of riding I did that day. As for the shaft drive, be it convenient, it felt a little bit like it was limiting the flow of the bike being a, bike. Just wasn't quite as playful. I'm happy to have finally quenched my BMW thirst, and to know the engine that's been at the heart of much of my work over the previous year. But knowing the Africa Twin or the Tracer 9 are about 35% cheaper here in Japan, not even getting into extras, maintenance, and all that comes with it, money aside, I still give those two a bit of a win in the fun factor. I'm an American who owned a Triumph while living in Japan. Feel free to find a dismissive bias and comment it below. But as the salesperson told me, he personally owns an R9T, and seeing how that was the bike that inspired me to go on this test ride after being my canvas for so long, maybe I should check that out. But all that having been said,
I can think of 2 reasons I wouldn't get it, but we'll get into that maybe later. And if the battery dies, it's price and reliability. I know most modern bikes are pretty reliable, but my experience with European bikes, it takes a pinch of faith.